Hello everyone and welcome to the next episode of Art Side of Life, where I chat with inspiring artists 5 days a week. My name is Eva and my guest today is Levi Prewitt, and in this episode you will learn how he developed his skills and the power of taking challenges on Instagram.
Then about 2 years ago I did Inktober, which, is so often the origin story for people, right? And I did Inktober and I drew every day and it was so hard. And by the end of it, I just wanted to die. But I got so much better in a month. It was insane.
Levi is a cartoonist from San Francisco, California. And his family is 100% into art and his friends are all into music. So he grew up in a creatively nurturing environment and he studied animation. He is a creator of Repo Creepo, a comic about hunters of ghosts, vampires, and demons among us. And his dream is to work on comics full-time. Recently, he also worked on a card game called Kill the Unicorns, which got funded on Kickstarter by 8,000 backers with more than $300,000. So please welcome Levi Prewitt, and let's get to the interview. Welcome everyone to the next episode of Art Side of Life, and I'm super happy to have Levi here. Hi!
Hey, glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. I'm super happy that you joined us here today, and let's just dive in right away to some of your background stories, and maybe you can share some childhood creative outlets and some funny stuff from them.
Well, my dad is a painter and my mom she paints as well. My grandma is a professional painter. So there you go. When I was growing up, my dad would always draw with me, and he would do this thing where he gets a piece of paper and he draws a bunch of squiggly lines, and I'd have to turn them into things.
Oh,
so
cool.
I was very lucky. I didn't have the classic story of the parents that didn't understand, and so that was really good. So I always grew up around art and music. And
so there was no escape from you actually not being an artist.
No. Yeah, after high school, I actually decided that I wasn't going to be an artist, and I was like, now I've got to be a big man and go to college, get my degree in communications or something.
So that was the alternative to art.
Yeah, it's like that was my rebellion. My rebellion was like, let's do something completely different, but that didn't last long.
So when did you decide, like, okay, this is like professional artist career? When was the time when we were like, okay, I will take this seriously?
Well, I was in school for, like I said, communications, and it didn't mean anything to me. I didn't know what I wanted to do with it. I kind of had a crisis, and I was like, I'm going to go to art school. And so I went to school for animation, and there's kind of a story behind me deciding I wanted to take art more seriously. When I finished high school, I was known kind of as being one of the creative types. That's what my friends knew about me. But I got kind of discouraged. I didn't think I was good enough, and I kind of started pursuing other things. Like I said, communications degree, which is not a bad thing to do, but for me it wasn't, stimulating or anything like that. And I remember my friend, I'm a musician as well, I was in a band, and after the band broke up, my friend was like, listen, I know all you've got is your classes right now, you need something creative, why don't you come help us with the music on this game project that they were working on a prototype for a video game. And I was like, okay. And I went, and we went to this meeting, and I met this cool guy, Gabe, and he's working on this prototype. And at the end of the meeting, he was like, all right, great. Well, you can get those art assets to us in like a week. And I went, what art assets? What are you talking about? I looked at my friend, and
It's like, what?
They knew that I drew, but I think that they knew I was kind of hiding it and it wasn't a thing. So after I was finished being very angry at them, I decided, all right, I'll do some concept art for him. And in the 4 months that followed, I just grew more than I had in the last 4 years artistically. And I kind of realized, oh, this is a part of me that I can't not feed into.
And was this like the first paid art project you had, or what was the first art job you had?
Well, paid. Yeah. I mean, the game didn't actually happen, but it led to paid work. It led to commissions from people that I knew. And then when I went to school, I started posting more on Instagram, and that's where my career as it is started to take shape.
Ah, okay. And so, how was the deciding process about where to go to study? Because now a lot of people are wondering, like, do I have to go to art school, or can I study online? And so, maybe what was the advantage for you? What was the good thing? And maybe would you decide otherwise now, or like, can you compare maybe from your experience?
I can't say that I regret the school that I went to, because it did lead me to this, and I learned a lot of great things. But art school is tricky because, some schools are a little bit less than accredited, and some schools are amazing. So a lot of it depends on what you put into it. I went to school to the only animation school near me that I could afford, and I went there for about 3 years, and it was great. And I took figure drawing, which was amazing, perspective classes, things that you are difficult to learn on your own if you don't have a lot of motivation to do so. So I don't regret it. It was awesome. But I think I did most of my growing, maybe even outside of my classes, because the restriction of classes, I was like, all right, well, I got to do comics,
So what was the best thing you learned when you were like creating the artwork for the band and the game and everything around that?
I think the best thing that I learned is that you can grow as an artist. Growing up as a kid, I was surrounded with a lot of talented people. My dad, like I said, painter. My grandma's a professional painter. My father's also a musician too. And all my friends are, all my friends have something really great. And so I'm surrounded by talent, and I forget that, talent doesn't get you very far. And that was something I learned through art school, is the second you put in some hard work and start challenging the things that you're bad at, just exponential growth if you actually challenge yourself. So that was the biggest thing that I learned in school, is that I could become the artist I wanted to be.
Ah, okay. So you approached it like, okay, for example, I don't know how to draw hands, so you would practice drawing hands for hours or something like that.
Yeah, everybody hates hands. Everybody hates hands.
They're difficult, well.
Hands are hard, but feet, man, I can't do feet. Feet are so hard. I've always got to look at reference.
Yeah, but you can hide them like with clothes, Hands, it's hard to hide, like drawings all the time like that.
The worst for me is machinery and landscapes. That was the hardest, and I thought that I couldn't do it. That's the thing, is you think, and a lot of the students that I went to school with, they said, oh, I don't do that. I do this kind of art. And that's what I think that's a lot of the mindsets that I see, and that's, the way I used to think. Taking perspective was huge for me, because it took something that I had declared that I could not do, and I was just fine with that. And then now I'm pretty proficient at doing it, and same with machinery and things. I think a lot of it is just saying yes, and just saying, all right, I guess I'll grow a little bit as a person,
And did you have a mentor, you remember? Maybe like, was it your mom or dad or someone from school, like, would help you?
My parents were always supportive, and I had a few teachers that were very helpful too. My figure drawing professor was great, but I don't know about one specific mentor. I had a lot of peers that really, iron sharpening iron. A lot of my old bandmates, the people that I worked on the game with briefly, we still kind of creatively challenge each other. And I think I need other people that are in the battlefield of the arts to talk to. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And how do you do networking now? Like, is it mainly your friends from your area and school, or is it mostly social media? How do you get your paid jobs, like, nowadays, or do you go to conventions as well?
Most of it is Instagram. I do conventions. There's a few small conventions in my area. I haven't worked up the nerve to do the really big ones, but that might be, might be the next step. But I've done conventions. There's a fun drink and draw event in Oakland that I go to sometimes to meet other artists. Yeah. But Instagram is has been the best for me. It's been just great.
Yeah, do you have some tips for just starting artists for Instagram? Because everyone is asking about it all the time, but something maybe you can say like one which worked for you the best, or maybe also what was the bad advice, like, okay, don't do this on Instagram.
Oh, bad advice. Yeah. Well, Instagram is always changing, their algorithm is changing and things, but so I can't say my old advice was post every day, because that's what I did. That's how I kind of kicked my own butt and got myself productive.
And when did you start it with Instagram?
So I've been on Instagram just posting pictures of my dogs and what you do for like years, but I started regularly posting art probably 3 years ago, I'd say. And yeah, I would post a drawing every few weeks or something like that. But then about 2 years ago, I did Inktober, which, is so often the origin story for people, right? And I did Inktober and I drew every day and it was so hard. And by the end of it, I just wanted to die. But I got so much better in a month. It was insane, and I got good with tools that I always wanted to be good with, like my brush pen and some dip brushes. I always loved Bill Watterson, like Calvin and Hobbes, and Jeff Smith, the guy that did Bone. And I always really wanted to, to steal everything that they do. So that was really cool because it kind of empowered me. And then since I had already gotten in the habit of posting regularly, I just kept posting, and eventually I posted every day. And yeah, I can't even pinpoint when my Instagram took off, but if you continue putting yourself out there on Instagram, it's a really good bet, and participating in challenges and things like that. I can tell you the worst thing you can do is to post a drawing and tag all of your favorite artists in it. I get tagged in so many pictures, dude. It's true, crazy. I never quite know what to say. It's like, all right, good.
I guess, yeah, you just like it, or I don't know. But
if it's like fan art or something, I'll be like, oh my god, so cool. But if it's just some random thing, there's so many people tag you in pictures. I don't know if that helps, to be honest.
It's questionable.
It's
if it
questionable.
is like all the time, then yeah, you start like skimming through faster, and it's like, okay, I don't have time for that. So I'd say challenges are a big one. Inktober's great. Season of the Bad Guys Club is one that a lot of people are doing, which is really cool. The cool thing about Instagram is it reminds me of MySpace, how MySpace was for musicians, because everybody was already on MySpace. Musicians just had to put out music and people could share them to their page and things like that. Instagram, that's where everybody is right now. So all that's kind of missing. Yeah, which is a bit harder now to start later on, because then it's a bit overcrowded. So
Perhaps, yeah, that's true. But all that's missing is kind of your brand and your strategy. All the people are already there. So that's the good thing about Instagram.
So what would you say, like, it's your branding, or how do you differentiate with either your art style or the communication, or kind of you as a whole?
Man, I'm so new at this. I've only been doing this full time for about a year, so my brand is very much desperately trying to pay the bills. But I consider myself a cartoonist, like a comic storyteller first. And naturally, when you're trying to make ends meet, comics get pushed to the side a little bit. So I think my storytelling sensibilities kind of leak into the things that I post online, and I try to infuse everything with character and I don't know. Yeah, I'd be very interested to hear what other people would have to say, but I think that's one of the things that probably defines my art, is that I like to try to tell stories because you can't always be telling big ambitious graphic novels, so
because it's always hard to choose what is your art goal, or what is the art area you want to be in. So that's actually really good that you're like, and this is like what I'm going for. And so how does your normal day look like now? How many hours a day do you spend drawing, or what do you live from, like is it mainly freelance, or yeah, so if you can take us through your classic day.
My classic day is very structured, actually. Like, I'll wake up and I have this Rhodia pad, and it's a grid, and I'll write out my list for my day, even if it's dumb stuff like, pick up your socks. Everything will go on the list. So that's kind of my weird, like, you hear of the two sides, people that are very structured or very not, and I'm very structured. And I wake up and I do that, and I lately have just, unless it's a weekend, you draw from the morning, and then usually it'll end, at like 9 o'clock. Mind you, I'm working on a pretty big project right now for a company, a card game project. So it's been extra busy for that reason.
Oh, perfect. And so mainly it's this project and freelance on the side on different projects, or now you work like 100% on this project?
Well, typically it's freelance. Most of my money I make from commissions. And then I also sell things, like I do auctions on my Instagram. Oh, dropped my coaster.
Oh, okay.
And that's kind of an unusual thing, but it tends to work for me. And also it's great to see people get involved, I think. That's the great thing about auctions, is people get to place their own value, and you kind of build a community, I think, around your work. But since the card game project, it's been mostly the card game project. It's been hard to do.
Oh, perfect.
I'm excited to get back into it, though.
And when this is going to be out, 2018 or yeah, so that's still like confidential.
No, it's on Kickstarter right now. It's called Kill the Unicorns, and it's by a company called Morning, a French-American game company, and it's totally ridiculous. It's like a Saturday morning cartoon where you all hunt unicorns. And it's on Kickstarter right now, I think, for 24 more days, and then I think the games ship early 2018. But
perfect. Oh, good.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to that. And
I'm excited about it.
And when you're deciding about projects, what to take, like, for example, this one with unicorns, and you cannot work on everything at the same time, what is going on in your head? Like, when you have to say no, how do you decide what to take and what not to take?
What do you mean I can't work on everything at one time, huh?
Okay, well, you can sleep, maybe you don't have to, I don't know.
I've been turning down a lot of stuff lately because of the card game. It depends on how poor I am, and then it also depends on I've turned down projects because it's not something I want to have my name on, which is especially hard when you're not doing well with money. But there have been a few things that's like, I can't have my name on that. But most of the time, it's just if something sparks my, creative interest, I can get really invested in a project. So I usually know which ones I want to take.
Oh, perfect. And you work usually digitally, right?
Actually, usually I work traditionally. This is the first project that I have fully gone digital on. I got a Cintiq for it, and it's been a learning curve, but it's been great.
Oh, nice. Because most of the posts recently, what I saw, they look all like digital, but then, I see you use a lot of copying markers. I just have it open here as well. So is that your like go-to thing, like the markers, or what is your maybe favorite brand? What you use, like people can try and see if they like it?
My favorite tools. I was seeing if I had one over here, but I think it's. Oh, I do. I love my Pentel pocket brush. That's what I've tried other brush pens, and there's other great ones, but it's so good. I've got like 4 of them, and I just keep them in rotation so that they don't wear out. And so that's my main tool. I do love working digitally as well. I'm getting really into it, but traditionally is probably my favorite. That's how I do my comics, is with a brush pen, red color erase pencil, and then lately I've been using Copics a lot, and obviously they're great.
Oh, so cool. Yeah, because like digital artworks are a bit faster, you can adjust, and with the traditional you have to like scan. Do you have a scanner at home, or do you take pictures with your phone or like camera?
I do. I worked on my client work before this. My last kind of big project was this kind of multimedia kids stage show that I did a bunch of illustrations for, and it was digital, but I only had a bamboo tablet, and it took so long to draw, and I had so many illustrations to do. So what I did was I can't believe I did this, but I did all the illustrations traditionally, scanned them, colored them digitally, and then if you wanted an adjustment or a tweak on it, maybe I could do it digitally, but sometimes I would just have to redraw the drawing. Wow. It was insanity. I could never do that again. It was the worst. So client work usually gets the digital treatment, and then commissions usually are markers.
And can you recommend also the scanner? Because I'm still looking for a perfect scanner and I haven't found it.
If you find one, let me know, because mine is garbage. Mine is really bad. I've got a $60 thing that I got from Target.
Yeah, I have the same, and everything I scan is just so bad that I just need to try a different one. Okay.
Yeah, it's not very good. Usually, if I scan in color, I go to a friend's house and I scan on theirs. Black and white, it does just fine, but color is sometimes a little off.
Oh, perfect. But, and you also do T-shirts, right, and other products, or and do you sell them on Etsy or on your own shop?
Yeah, I again lately it hasn't been as frequent, but I've got an Etsy shop where I in the past have sold comics, T-shirts, art prints, stickers, buttons, and stuff like that. And lately I've been putting out a shirt every month, every 2 months, and that's been a lot of fun. I love doing that.
And how did you find like the producer of the T-shirt? Is it in your local area, or someone recommended you something from overseas, or?
Instagram. I work with this company called Night Owls in Houston, Texas, and they're just great. They work with a few other artists that I know on Instagram. That's how I found them. But
perfect.
Yeah, no, it's the best.
Nice,
Instagram has connected me with a lot of people.
Oh, that's really good. Yeah, because like it's sometimes really hard to find like, okay, like the good quality that you like it, then it doesn't cost like, I don't know, millions.
Yeah.
And all of that. And do you have maybe also some recommendations when we talked about the learning and, you know, the perspective and all that stuff? I thought like, okay, maybe books or documentaries or YouTube channels. Is there something you would recommend to learn from, or you just enjoy?
It depends on the kind of learner you are. I know people that need classes. They really need it. And I'm kind of a self-learner. So when I was in classes, I got really aggravated that I had to do the work, that I couldn't just learn the thing, you know, which is so stupid that but that's kind of my brain works. I'm like, just let me do the final project and see if I learned it. But I know that online classes are supposed to be really affordable, and there's lots of them led by people who have been in the animation industry. So from my limited exposure, that's a really good bet if you're not around any cool art schools. But classes you should take, obviously it depends, but perspective and rendering made a big difference for me. And also figure drawing is really great, really useful.
Do you still go to figure drawings or not anymore? Like live drawing sessions?
Not anymore, but I mean, I'm in San Francisco. There's got to be a lot of sessions around me happening.
Yeah, I'm a bit jealous about the location and art industry and stuff. So yeah, I'm sure there is.
So I got to seek some out. I've got to find, because it's so great to just practice and yeah. Yeah, and I miss that.
What about some books? Do you also have some books maybe about either storytelling or just art learning, or something you would give as a present to artists?
Yeah, a lot of my friends have been given Bone by Jeff Smith. That's one of my favorites. But in terms of theory books, I've got a bunch of random figure drawing books and things like that. But I've also got Making Comics by Scott McCloud. It's a book that breaks down storytelling in comics. That's a very useful one. Any of Joseph Campbell's books on storytelling are great, like The Hero with a Thousand Faces is really cool. Breaks down story structure really simply. Those are books that I love. I feel like I get the creative side. My brain is so ADD, it can fire off in 1,000 directions. So if you add a little structure to it, that's when good things happen. So like that's why I like Joseph Campbell and Dan Harmon and people that will, give you a few rules.
Yeah, yeah, because
Yeah.
I'm also like, oh, I want to do everything at once.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, okay, I will put that on my reading list.
Nice.
Perfect. And so, is there something you wish you knew before you started the whole art career?
um, I mean, I wish I knew how much work it was going to be. It wouldn't have stopped. It wouldn't have changed anything, but it would have been nice to know. But I think it's now that I know all of the things that I was afraid of before
Mm-hmm.
were things I hadn't tried or experienced yet, like digital art,
Mm-hmm.
working with ink. Ink was a big one. It was just something I didn't think I could do. I did a lot of pencil graphite stuff,
Yeah.
figure drawing, perspective, things I was terrified of. And I feel like now something that I've learned that helps me a lot is that things that you are scared of are things that you haven't
Well,
uh,
yeah.
done yet. Yeah, exactly. And so uh, every time I get approached to do a commission or some sort of client work
Mm-hmm.
that I haven't done yet, which is a lot of the client work because I'm fairly new at this, I just say yes and ask questions later. You know what I mean? Like I'll figure it out. And I think that that's one of the biggest things that I wish that I had known at the beginning is that, you know,
And so, what keeps you motivated? Is it the learning, as you mentioned, or is it some future projects, or just the activity of drawing?
I do love to just sit down and draw without a plan, but yeah, my biggest motivation is definitely uh, storytelling. I've got so many graphic novels and comic books just kind of half thumbnailed in books and
Oh,
stuff. So
cool.
that's what's most exciting to me. I love that stuff.
So somewhere in the drawers, like, okay, this is upcoming, and
Oh yeah, yeah. I've got yeah, way too many notebooks.
so what will be the next one you will work on? Do you already know?
Well, I've got a comic series that I'm 2 issues into called Repo Creepo that I love very much, but it was also very ambitious. It was going to be this long series, so I'm figuring out right now if that's going to be the next thing or if I should put out some smaller, smaller stories first. I don't know. Like I said, right now I'm paying the bills, and when the bills are paid, then I can sit down and figure out which comic is next. But I'm very excited though.
Oh, perfect. And so when you have these stories, like, do you have a favorite character from your stories, and maybe what inspired you to create this character?
Oh shoot. Well, the main character in Repo Creepo is Naomi, and she's this girl that works at a frozen yogurt shop, and she quits every job that she's ever had, and she ends up getting following this Craigslist ad without really reading it, and she gets swept up in this whole story, and she's uh, a supernatural repo man, and it's just about being lazy. It's just about my life before I decided to, to go freelance and stuff like that. I hated my jobs, but I didn't want to do anything about it. Yeah,
Oh,
so I
perfect.
identify with her for sure.
Oh, good, good. So it's always interesting to see like what comes from our life experiences to the stories we create, right?
Yeah, yeah. No, I love the characters that are narcissistic and flawed and clearly have something they need to fix. That's my favorite.
Perfect. And did you also experience something like a hard time of your career, like the worst career moment so far, or even during the studies? Or and if you had something like that, maybe what was it, or what you learned from it?
There were lots of dark times. Near the end of school, I was seeing the debt rack up, and I was seeing, like I had to weigh whether or not it was important for me to stay there. So that was a hard decision when I did decide to leave. But I was like, I can always go back to school. So that was a hard one, but it ended up being good. Another one, obviously, when I moved out and I still had student debt, that was a mistake. Don't do that if you don't have to. Doesn't that's a hard one, but yeah. So those were probably some of the tougher moments.
So, and that's what would be your advice to young people as well when they are taking the student debt, and then how would you approach that now if you would take it?
Well, if you're doing the student route, I think it's important to remember that school is an investment, that college is an investment into your future. And you don't need college to create art, but art school it can be useful to you. Just remember that it's a tool that you use So if you are getting connections, that's great. If you're growing in your skill, that's great. But at the end of the day, school is there to help you, and hopefully you should be able to make back that money at a reasonable time.
Yeah.
So it's good to stay very self-aware about that stuff and not expect school to propel you to, to something.
Yeah. Because it's hard to choose the school as well, and some schools in Europe, they are for free, right? Because of just from taxes, and then you are thinking like, okay, do I want to go somewhere else where it's like super expensive, or is it worthy, and how to compare them, right?
Yeah, and hey, I mean, if money's no object, go to school. These like
It's like the best one.
Yeah, there's no shame in going to art school. I think it can be very, very useful. I had a great time, and I learned a whole lot. Yeah.
Perfect. Oh, awesome. And let's talk about the future. And what would be your dream scenario in like 5 to 10 years? Like projects you want to work on, and like everything is how you want.
I would be working on comics back to back to back. That would be my dream. We'll see though. Because all the comics that I've done so far have been side projects. Who knows how crazy that would make me if that was my whole life. But that's what, if I see myself in 5 years, dream scenario, it's putting out books. That's what I love.
Yeah, and do you want to do it maybe through Kickstarter or like self-publishing, or you don't know yet?
The method isn't as important to me. Lately, I've been looking into webcomics, which I never looked into before, because I think for my next project, I want to get it in as many hands as possible. Well, I guess not really literally, but you know what I mean. I think eventually making money is important, but to do that, I think more people have to read it. The comics I've put out in the past have been they've gotten readership, but part of me wishes they were online for free from the beginning, so that
so more people can reach them.
Yeah, I would rather have people reading them than buying them, if that makes sense. Maybe that's dumb, but I would rather have people experiencing them, and then I'll figure out how I can make money off of it later,
Yeah, so you have to figure out how to bring the income and then still create the comic books. Oh, perfect. Yep. And what about far, far future? And I would like to know, what would you like to be remembered for in like 100 years? The comic books or stories, or is there something else?
Story. I mean, comic books seem like the attainable one for me. But I'd love to work in movies and games. I don't know. I've always idolized people like Hayao Miyazaki and John Lasseter, and so many creators that are associated with their characters. So if I could end my life being associated with characters that I've created, that would, rest in peace.
Perfect.
That'd be great.
That sounds really nice. I'm looking forward to see all of your projects in the future. And maybe before we say goodbye, you can share like a last piece of advice, and then we will slowly finish.
My advice would be to constantly challenge what you think you can do. Because if you spend your time looking at artists that are better than you, and you just consider them artists that are better than you, and you don't consider the work that went into creating them, it's easy to lie to yourself, I guess. You can push yourself a lot farther than you think you can, and that's been my experience. So yeah, embrace the suck, and be a little terrible, be a little punk rock, because that's how you get good.
Yeah, good. Just get rid of the bad drawings, right? You have to draw them a lot. And then the good ones will come.
Yeah, flush them out, man.
Perfect. Thank you so much again for being here.
Yeah, of course. It's been so fun.
Oh, perfect. Then thanks.
I can't wait to watch it and be like, ah.
It's like, no, yeah. I also don't like watching myself. Anyway. But thanks everyone again for joining as well. And see you in the next episode. Hey guys, if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and let me know in comments. Also, please subscribe to my channel for more videos because I post new interview every single workday. You can also find the resources mentioned in this episode at artsideoflife.com. Just type a guest name in the search bar. There is also a little freebie waiting for you, so go check it out. If you want to listen to the interviews on the go, make sure to check out the podcast episodes at artsideoflife.com/podcast. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate you, and don't forget to inspire each other. I will see you guys in the next episode.